I was a little biased going in to want to like this movie because I was such a big fan of the first one. And even the first one kind of caught me off guard. I didn't know what to expect from Chris Hemsworth outside of being Thor. And it was a breath of fresh air. It was like a return to action movies of old, but with like really modern day tech and action and CG, whatever it is that they can do now that they couldn't do in the heyday of action films of the 80s and 90s. It was a return to that for me. And it was a great example of a modern day action film. I think they're hard to do nowadays. I think one of the bright shining stars is the Mission Impossible franchise for me. But outside of that, there's not that many great action movies anymore. These extraction films, though, like I said, breath of fresh air. The second film did not disappoint. As I said, I'm a little biased going in because I went in wanting to really like it, but skeptical because sequels sometimes are better than the original, but not usually. Usually when you do a sequel, they're just trying to make bigger action scenes, bigger stakes, that sort of thing. And it just doesn't pay off. Bigger budget, more actors, bigger names. That's usually what you get with a sequel. It's a money grab. However, I appreciated what the story did in this one. I appreciate the story that was told. They ended the first one with the main character dying, but leaving it open that he may still be alive. Obviously, when they announced the sequel, that either they're recasting it or he's still alive. I thought it was very clever. I don't know if it was clever. It was just good storytelling, how they brought him back. It wasn't anything over the top. He had fallen into the river in the last film with some bullet holes in him. He washed up on shore in this one and was immediately medevaced and kind of taken care of, brought back, if you will. And I like that they showed him spending time in the hospital and recovering. I like that they focused on that. And I especially liked that, it took a good, 15, 20 minutes before, he's on a new mission because he has to have this time to recover. He has to basically learn to walk again, strengthen his leg muscles, do all kinds of physical therapy, and that takes time. And so I love that they did that, and I especially love that when he does go on a mission, they give you a very, very Rocky IV, Rocky in Russia training montage. You got him kind of getting his wits back, getting his physical strength back to as close to his peak as possible, and he's doing it all with rudimentary training tactics out in the snow. Man, it was great. It really did. That's one of my favorite, training montages of all time in Rocky IV. The film itself, it's great. I love all the Rocky films, but you have to admit, the cheesiness that is in that film is it's a little over the top. It's very, very 1985. But it worked really well in this film, and I just love that they included that. And they had to be, paying homage to that when making this scene. How do you make a winter training montage without knowing that you're invoking Rocky IV? Anyway, I really like the plot in this. I didn't expect what they did, but they had basically his ex-sister-in-law and her children. I don't know how they fell in with a known terrorist faction, but they did, and it was a well-known thing, I guess. And her ex-husband or husband had basically taken her and her kids prisoner, claiming it was for their safety, and put them inside of a prison on this big compound, which was surrounded by enemies of this faction. It was a pretty nutso situation, In the trailer, I remember thinking there was this scene where he's like fighting off people in like a town square, like person after person, which turned out to be a fantastic fight sequence, and more than just a fight sequence, but like a lot of stuff happens in that sequence. Turned out to be really fantastic, but it was not a town square. It was like a prison yard, a common area in a prison yard, and it was fucking awesome. Like his hand on fire, what a great touch. Like I don't think I've ever seen that in an action film. He's like beating the hell out of guys while his arm is aflame. That was just badass. Anyway, I love the story. I love how they have the conflicted son who is like torn between being loyal to his father and uncle and the whole whatever terrorist faction, and his loyalty to his mom and his ex-uncle-in-law, which I'm guessing he's never met, but it adds an extra kind of dynamic to the film that I really enjoyed. And I thought that bringing Chris Hemsworth, his character, what's his name, Rake, back together with his ex-wife, not back together, but having him meet back up with his ex-wife after all this kind of illusion in the first film and throughout this film, to the fact that he lost a son years ago and obviously kind of abandoned his wife at the time because he couldn't handle. There was just a lot of heart. There was a lot of, especially if you were a parent, it hits harder, especially when it has something to do with the death of a child, of your child. So there was like extra stakes for this, for him in this, where, he had lost a child. He knows what it's like to lose a child. And not only is he saving his ex-wife's sister, but her children and her son, who is around the same age that his son would have been had he lived. And there's some great stuff between them, and really great stuff when the ex-wife and the main character meet back up for the first time. It's like a palpable tension. It was some good, emotional stuff. And I enjoyed that. Obviously, I enjoyed all the action in this. Top-notch action from, blowing helicopters out of the sky to fighting on top of trains. Just fantastic stuff, but still just grounded enough to almost be believable. Yeah, all that, obviously, the action is fantastic in this. But like I said, the serious beats, the heartfelt stuff, it really hit home, especially for me. And I think it'll translate well to other people as well, especially anyone with kids. But it also made me a little sad because, if you don't know this, Chris Hemsworth has announced that he will be stepping away from acting. I don't know if this will be temporary or if this is for good, but he has discovered that he has certain genes that make him very probable to end up with a degenerative brain disorder later in life, Alzheimer's or dementia, some sort of dementia, and he has decided that he's going to step away from acting and spend as much quality time with his family, with his sound mind, as humanly possible. And God, you've got to respect the hell out of that, because this is a guy arguably in the peak of his attractiveness, a peak or close to peak of his celebrity, and I'm sure can fish a major payday in just about any role. And on top of that, this showcased, more so than most of his work, his serious dramatic beats, his serious acting skills. And as much as I respect what he's doing by stepping away, I am a little saddened to know that we won't get to see him develop even further and maybe venture out and be known for something more than his role as Thor, the God of Thunder. So that's, I don't know. It just, I do feel deprived of that going forward. But as I said, it's super commendable. I mean, almost praiseworthy what he's doing. And doing it at a time. It's not like his career was waning. Like, this guy is at his peak, and he's stepping away. And there's definitely something to be said for that. Anyway, I love the movie. Like I said, I this is one where I wish there was a third even, you know? But I understand why there may not be. And yeah, I'm completely okay with it. Anyway, I'd love to hear what you guys thought of this. Obviously, I really loved it. Top-notch modern-day action flick for me. But let me know what you thought in the comments below. How much do you think it compares to the first one in terms of like how good it is? And yeah, you can either let me know in the comments, or you can reach out on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at RealBrettScott. If you're maybe listening to this in podcast form, or if you just want to connect with me outside of here. Yeah, and if you're interested in this sort of stuff where I talk about entertainment, pop culture, all kinds of other stuff, then please subscribe to the channel or favorite or follow Daily BS Podcast. And if you do decide to stick around and favorite, follow, subscribe, then I'll talk to you again real soon. Thanks.